Singapore has unveiled a $107 billion budget aimed at tackling the immediate challenges brought about by COVID-19, as well as the country's longer-term needs. The government will tap on past reserves for the second year in a row to fund an $11 billion COVID-19 resilience package. It will be used to safeguard public health and support businesses and workers as they tide through the pandemic. Around $900 million will be set aside to cushion households affected by the uncertainties. $24 billion will be set aside over the next 3 years to help businesses and workers in their innovation and transformation journeys. And to finance Singapore's spending needs, the planned GST hike to 9% needs to happen sometime between 2022 and 2025, and sooner rather than later. We're joined now by Samir Bedi from Ernst Young. Well, Samir, this year's budget looks beyond the immediate impact of the pandemic. So what stood out for you?
Well, where do I begin? Let me start by saying the very few words or sentences that DP Young mentioned. He said it was his New Year resolution to run only one budget. So I think that was a big statement itself in terms of saying that this budget should now take us from, let's say, containment, which the previous budgets ran, or job retention, to more of job creation as well as restructuring. So I think that was one key element. But what really stood out for me was the fact that we brought companies as a focal point. We looked at companies as the basic economic unit, and that major push towards driving transformation across companies, driving innovation across those companies, so that they can then drive that innovation for employees going forward and help them upskill and reskill into better jobs for the future. So I think the big standout was that big shift in terms of ensuring that our companies remain relevant for the future. Programs like CTO as a service, digital leader program, the continuous additional of the PSG job redesign, additional co-funding to it, all those things kind of stand out to me with this budget.
Yeah, as you mentioned, companies is a focal point. How adequate is the budget in helping businesses and workers sustain in the months ahead as COVID-19 continues to evolve?
Well, we've seen a number of the previous programs being extended. I mean, one big additional sweetener was the job support scheme for some of the tier 1 sectors, which are the hardest hit, which in many ways will help those sectors tide over some more months of the pandemic. At the same time, use this time to kind of transform the services, redesign jobs, redesign processes, and therefore create jobs for the future, create jobs most relevant for tomorrow. The additional elements around wage credit scheme extension, around running capability transfer programs in place, actually do enable the workforce to pick up the relevant skills for the future. I think one very critical point of that entire budget is that job redesign is now an inevitable reason by which we can keep employees relevant. It's not only organizations need to transform, but only when organizations transform do they actually redesign jobs or they relook at those tasks. And in reality, when that job redesign typically happens, that's when employees start picking up the new skill sets, start building into lifelong learning, and help remain relevant for not only today, but for the new normal or the new future, or help us emerge stronger into 2021 and 2022 onwards.
Samir, there is a need to balance being a global hub, attracting quality foreign talent, as well as balance that with taking care of Singaporeans and their jobs. Do you think this budget adequately provides for that?
Yeah, I would say the budget adequately provides for that. And I'd like to go a bit back in terms of looking at even the time when we were going through our circuit breaker or the heights of the COVID pandemic in Singapore. We did a lot through technology transformation, where we actually looked at ways by which locals could could do jobs that were traditionally in the past done by foreign workers or foreign job roles. In the future, as organizations start imbibing Industry 4.0 or technology transformation, we'll see a large part of some of the repetitive tasks getting automated. And therefore, when you say some of the foreign workers at the lower end levels, their jobs would need to transform. And therefore, jobs will increase in productivity level or increase in what we call in HR terms job worth. Therefore, the job becoming more I'd say, attractive for the Singaporean workforce. For jobs which exist in the higher end of the spectrum, there would still be that focus of having the adequate foreign workers, provided they can demonstrate a capability or a training shift to the local workforce over a period of time. And therefore, I think it's a part of around driving complementarity of both the foreign workers and the local workers to build a better Singapore.
All right, thank you so much for that. Samir Bedi there from EY.